let me give a short introduction about you. Meryl is a mom. She's a politician. She's an activist. She has more than 30 years experience in talking about women's issues, in supporting women and children, and she has some ties with Vilnius as well. So Meryl, tell us about your experience, 30 years being a politician, being an activist on women's issues, and how did this come about?
Okay, well, I'd like to introduce myself first and to talk with you a bit about why I'm doing the work that I'm doing. And can you ask if they can hear me?
Can you hear her? Can everyone hear her? No, I have a feeling, no.
Okay, can you hear me
do
now?
Something different.
Okay, did you notice that no one complained? This is a group of women. That's why no one complained. What I do now is I do women's leadership training. And I thought that I would start with some of what I do so that you'll have something to go home with. First of all, when I saw this setup, I immediately said, this is really great. The reason it's great is women should not sit on a couch like this. Look at my feet. See? It doesn't work for us. We have to sit all the way to the front in order to make sure that we're sitting properly. Otherwise, we're either like this or like this. You're doing it exactly right. Yes. She's sitting toward the front of the chair. You'll notice, just keep your eyes open during the day, and you'll notice where we sit. Now, this is important because we're sending a message out. When we are going for leadership positions, if we're looking like this, no one sees us as a leader. And because we are women, and often men see us in a different position, we don't have to act like men, we don't have to dress like men, but we have to hold ourselves in a way that you would have confidence. There's several other things. This chair over here, I immediately saw. When you are on stage, never use this chair. Look. If there's a podium, the people there would not be able to see you because we're not always so tall. And I talk to people about standing up. It's the same reason that opera singers stand up. It's so that you can project into the audience. You need to have a strong voice and presence because there are two ways of communicating. One is with language and one is with your body. And what they see first as you're walking into the room is your body. If I'm walking in and I'm going like this and I'm nervous, I'm sitting like this, what's the message you're getting? Women, you can say something. Is anyone getting a message if I sit like this? You can yell it out.
I heard no confidence.
No confidence, that's right. The other thing that women do very often, I noticed that the panelists here did not do it. When women are nervous, they're all over the world, their voices tend to go up here, and they get very high and they speak very fast, and now you will probably notice it. And men do not want to listen. They think it's their mother yelling at them. And also, it's very difficult on our voice to hold it up here, but it's what happens naturally when we get excited. So I say to people, bring your voice down. I call it my tantrum voice. When my children would be having tantrums, I would start with, okay, calm yourself down. And it means speaking from here. It also slows down your speech so that people can hear what you're saying. Now, I'll answer her questions. I just wanted to throw these out. And with what Hella said, she said everything I was going to say anyway, so you don't really need me.
Okay, so I'll use my tantrum voice to ask a question again. So, 30 years career in politics. You're talking about women's issues, women leadership, and your ties to Vilnius. Is that connected? Is there something which has brought this on?
Well, my family was from Vilnius, and they called it Vilna. My grandmother came here came to the US in about 1906. And they were very snobbish because they were from Vilna. And this was a center of art and culture and theater, and the language was used properly, wonderful schools, and we didn't understand why they were such snobs. My aunt came here in 1932, and she came back as a snob as well. This is passed down through the generations. And even when I meet people now and they say, oh, you're from Vilnius, there's this sense that this is a center of learning. And so it was always in me. My family left because of difficulties here, but the rest of my family stayed. And unfortunately, they lived, you know where Feliz is, the restaurant? That was their house. And they stayed here until they were forced into the ghetto. And unfortunately, none of them survived. I was mentioning one of the stories, and they're actually too horrible to tell you. But this city was wonderful to them. It was their home. We still have a very strong feeling about it. But at the same time, when I come here, it's filled with ghosts for me. And this is the reason that I got into politics. My aunt would speak to me about my grandmother, Meryl, by the way, I'm named for her, and say, this can never happen again. It's your responsibility to make sure that we repair the world. And let me tell you, this is an enormous burden for a child. And I've thought about it every single day of my life. I think about the Holocaust. This is something that stays with people. And it's a different city now. It was 40% Jewish then. Now it's a different city. But still, this is their home, and this is where we came from. I kept this sense with me all of those years that I was supposed to do something. And so going into politics, actually first going into political science, was no leap for me. I had this sense that this could not happen again to Jews or to anyone in the world. And so my work started at home. It started in politics, in providing family leave, and all of the work that I did is still tied back to that. So it sort of started here. Yeah. Not such a wonderful way, but it started here.
I see. You were a mom with 4 children, and you decided you want to become a mayor of Highland Park. You had no financial means to support your campaign. Your opponents had quite a few. How did you do that? Why did you do that? What possesses a person to leave home and go into politics?
Well, Hella mentioned this also, and that is that women don't always see themselves as being qualified. We have to have more qualifications. We have to be encouraged. And I was an at-home mom for 12 years with 4 children. I did not see myself as a leader. I was interested in politics. I had degrees in politics. But I thought that I would be the person in back, and women often think that. It wasn't until I got angry. This is what drives women into politics. There is a drive. And I think for women in other leadership positions, it's the same thing. I mean, you can tell me, is it not being angry, but a drive so that you cannot not do it? You cannot just sit there. And this is something that can be developed, but in politics, it's you get angry about something and you want to change it. Men are very different. Mm-hmm. They will go, it's a career choice. But for us, it's wanting to change something. And so, being at home for 12 years, I went into politics. I wanted to change something. I wanted to make our government a good government, an honest government, something that was there for the people, that was including all sorts of my community. In my community, we speak 70 languages. That's how diverse it is. And I wanted people to feel involved, that it was their community. And so I ran for office. By the way, I ran for office against an incumbent of my own party. Do you all understand that? It was, I don't think I realized at the time how difficult that was going to be. This party in particular was very tough. And I think because I was new to this, I take exception with having to have experience. I think we do have experience. I think President Obama had experience. That made me enter something that I might have thought as foolish otherwise. I went into this, I made a choice to move forward, to go into it, and it's tough. It's tough on your family, it's tough in your life, but I felt that I had to do it.
And my impression about politics, especially US, is you need money.
Oh, yes.
And you had none.
Well, what I had was, my opponent, who was in the party, had the support of the party. Now, this is 17 years ago, and I've been told he spent about $200,000. I had nothing. But what I did have was support in the community. And we had a group of women some of whom were mothers, others were not, but we would meet at 10 o'clock at night because people were putting their kids to bed. And I said, I will pay no one. So they came out and they did this, and most of what we considered my $16,000 in running the campaign was what we call in kind. It was pro bono, it was free. And we were able to make this happen. This, by the way, is true all over the world. Women in Afghanistan will say, we don't have any support, we don't have any money. The men get a goat and they can roast it and everyone comes. But we don't have money for a goat. It's the same thing. They don't have the resources. They have to find another way.
Mm. And your experience as a mayor, did you find it easy?
When I came in as mayor, I came in for the one position. The entire council was against me. And they tried to change the rules so that the mayor would have no power. Now, 17 years ago, people didn't use the internet, but I understood that I had no money. And this would be an interesting way to reach people. And so we did, and 300 people came out that night. So I was able to use different resources, but being mayor is the most immediate political office. People see you. It's their children. It's snow removal. It's garbage. It's things that people care about. And they have no problem telling you about it. But the politics are very rough also, because they are so local. And, this is true in politics here, I'm sure, in the United States, everywhere in the world, and that is that it's brutal. They will say things about you that are not true, and you can't anticipate it because sometimes it's just so crazy. And it can be, look, we're women. We want people to like us. And, I would say, I'm nice. Why didn't they vote for me? We want that to happen, but at some point, we have to take a step back and realize it's not about us. This is about people's anger. You have to listen. If you were to ask me what is the most important quality of a leader, it's an ability to listen. So I found that my ability to listen was how I was able to get through it. My ability to not put up a wall, to listen, to let it in, was really the key to my success. I'll show you. You want to stand up?
Yeah, sure.
I like to use my body to teach things.
Combat or something? No.
No, put your hands up. Now, people will come at you screaming and yelling, and you were a council person, really tough. So what I would teach the council people is this.
Oh. Okay.
Okay, now do it to me.
Oh, that was a hug.
The point here, I don't know if it was a hug, but the point here is that if you let things go by you, you can listen. You can hear what is happening. And for women especially, I don't think men do this, by the way. You will notice where they're coming from, what they really want answered. You know, if someone comes in yelling at you, it's usually not that. It's the third ear or the third eye that you have to use. And it's most often something else. And you can say, what is it I can do for you? Once they start speaking. I'll give you one example. It's snowing out. The mayor and the council are responsible for snow removal. You will not believe how important this is to people. I have one person on this street saying, I've lived in this town 30 years. This is the worst snow removal. I had another call. This is really true. Same street. Saying, I've lived in this town for 15 years and this is the best. This is really wonderful. It depends on where people are. From those calls, I walked outside with a council person and she said, damn it, it's snowing. And I said, oh, look, it's snowing. It's just where you are. And if you don't have the ability to listen and just let things go by and hear what's really happening, that's when we take it personally, when it's not really what's happening, but it hurts us, and it really gets you off focus.
Yeah. About the family and combining it with such a high power position, any tips for anyone in the audience or stories? How did you do that? Four kids after
Hella
all.
already told you. We have a lot in common. I have 4 children. I was involved in politics first. I have 3 degrees in public health, international relations, and politics. So obviously I was interested. And I was one of the authors of the Family Leave Act. Unlike Europe, the United States did not allow women or men to take time off following the birth of a child. But I never thought I would be taking time. What I did do is, sometimes you end up doing this. And so I was home for all 4 children. I was teaching at Rutgers University, and one of the professors said to me, you must be crushed. And I was shocked. Here I was, a feminist my whole life, having the luxury to stay home, because it is a luxury. People need to work now. And no, I wasn't crushed. I think you can be a feminist and believe that there are times in women's lives, if they are able, they may choose to stay home. But there are also times in men's life, if they are lucky enough, that they may choose to be home. Look, any woman in leadership, it's tough. And it's tough on a marriage, I'll be perfectly honest. You know, I didn't know that I would be working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And my husband didn't know either, and he's a feminist and very supportive, a great guy. But he didn't know what size shoes my kids wore. You know, he was not involved in those things. Actually, I said this in Jordan, and one of the women who was covered said, my husband doesn't know what size shoes he wears. And she said, but I fixed it. And I said, what did you do? She said, I got him another wife. So I explained, well, that is something that some people can do, but we can't all do it. But look, she was right. The point here is, if you are in a leadership position, you said this also, you can't do this alone. You know, I found that when I became mayor, my youngest daughter was 5. And she said to me, do you like being the mayor more than you like being my mommy? And I was heartbroken, and I had a vision of her on a therapist couch, you know. And I don't know where I came up with it, but I said to her, I love you more than I love anything else. You are the most important thing. And if you need me, you pull on me and say, Mommy, I need you. But we have big hearts. And our hearts are big enough to take care of our families and love our families, but also to take care of our communities. But you come first. And I honestly believe that for everyone, whether it is children or whether you are someone who has to take care of elderly parents, because, by the way, this falls on women, right? Are brothers taking care of elderly parents? No, it's falling on women. I honestly believe that your family comes first. But I don't believe that just for women. I think that that is a rule that should be for men also, and not enough men have it. And that is their family should come first also. And then we have big enough hearts to be able to manage both. And this is, I think, a good message for our children. And my kids, my daughters are feminists. My sons think every politician is a woman. But they've grown up understanding that, but also understanding their responsibilities that they have, and that because of what they have, they need to be able to give back.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You mentioned Barack Obama. He appointed you to be ambassador to the United Nations Commission on Status of Women.
Yes.
Tell us about it. How did it come about? Was it something you ever even think you might do?
Well, when I was 18, I said to my then boyfriend, now husband, that someday I want to be an ambassador to the UN for women's issues. And I didn't mean it. It was like, I want to be a ballerina. And I went about my life. I studied, by the way, Eastern European history. I went to Yale, I got these degrees, I had my children, I got involved in politics, but this was never something that I thought about. And I worked with Hillary. I worked with her campaign first. And she's an extraordinary woman. But I think we in this room are a different generation, and the way we approach politics is different. And after she lost, I went to Barack Obama's campaign. And they, again, had a different attitude. Mm-hmm. When I came to the UN, why don't I talk about how I got there first? I was mayor for 10 years. I ran 3 times, and also got involved in politics in my party. It was very clear that we needed a change in government. At that point, it was George Bush, and we, at that point, thought this is the worst it was going to get. Now it looks like heaven. And I wanted a new president, so I worked very, very hard. And by working hard, in the United States, that means raising a lot of money. And I raised money. I raised it in small bits from a lot of people. I thought that if somebody gives $5, they're committed, and their family will be committed. And so that's what I did, and I was the highest fundraiser of women in my state. So working with Hillary, I went up to the top. And then with Obama, they brought me out to Chicago, and I also went right up to the top. And at his convention, when he was nominated finally, a friend of mine, I mentioned it, do you know Bobby Brown makeup? Do you have that here? She's a friend of mine. We were at the convention, and she said, if he wins, what do you want? And I said, what are you talking about? She said, what position would you like? You're a big fundraiser. And so I told her the story about when I was 18. And she said, apply for it. And I said, I don't have qualifications. She said, put the application in, right? I thought, no, it's too high. I just can't do that. And she said, Meryl, you have nothing to lose. Just put it in. I put the application in, and 5 minutes later, I got a call saying, you have qualifications. Now, ambassadorships that are political, you get because you raise money. We should be honest. Most of them are not political, by the way, maybe 10%. But they called me because I actually was qualified as opposed to just raised money. And so she was right. I had nothing to lose. This is a lesson for all of you too. You have nothing to lose. Why not? And even if you don't get this job, they'll realize that you have some potential and you know it, you're confident. And so that's a very important lesson.
Let me open it up for questions. Is there anyone who would like to ask Meryl a question? Yes, we have one person here.
Thank you very much for a great speech. It's amazing how in one speech you go everywhere, from painful history to realities, from mysteries of small Vilnius to very global issues. This is really something to think of. My question for you would be like this. Maybe you have some advice and also to share your own experience. How do you face the answer no while you are trying to achieve something? How do you face adversity or perhaps restrictions? How do you deal with yourself first, and how do you treat it and go forward, go further? Thank you.
It's a good question. A little problem that I have is when someone says no, that gets me going. I'll give you an example. In my state, people who are elected are allowed to have more than one position. They are allowed to be mayor and also the senator and also other things. And they collect salaries for all of this. My question was, who do you serve? Do you serve your community? Do you serve the larger community? Now, it was allowable, and I was told I could not change it. But I did. And I got a message from the governor's office saying, you're not allowed to do this. And I said, sue me. No one was going to go against an effort for good government. By the way, the next month they passed it, the entire state. But the idea here is, if you are right about something, you need to pick your battles. You need to know what is most important to you. Some things you let go. It really doesn't matter so much. Some battles you just don't win. But there are things where, I don't know if you use this expression, you stick your neck out. Mm-hmm. You take a chance. And often the no is based on inner reason. And like I was saying before, when the public comes out, you can ask why. What is your thinking about this? And try to get to the place where, oh, you're thinking that. Well, would you feel more comfortable if it was this way? With my own staff, I would say to them, the answer to the public is never no. The answer is, how can we make that happen? And you might not make it happen, but they will then understand. It's also with a promise. As mayor, I would promise things. I would say that I will do this. But I would explain to them, we had a 1-year plan, a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan. If it didn't work, I would explain it to people and say, this is what we did, this is how we tried to do it, and you know what? It didn't work. And that, people were able to understand. They just need to be explained what's going on sometimes. By the way, at 10 years, when I left, I said, I did everything I said I was going to do, and the things we didn't do, we explained to you why.